Yeah. All right. So I hope I'm audible to everyone, and I can see some of our old students are there in the class, but there is a good number of new students also. I think Chirag and Sagar, you both are new students from the new batch. So first of all, welcome to PMF IAS, and today we are starting the second batch of our ecology and environment. Let me first give you a quick disclaimer for the students who are old students. Mind my words, guys, you're not missing out on anything. Okay, don't be under this impression that if you do not attend, the new batch, then you are missing out on something. Don't be under this impression. You guys are not missing out at all. Okay, because just imagine if you spend 2 hours in getting that just 10% extra, because normally between your batch and this batch, whatever current affairs would have happened, whatever current events would have happened, they would have been hardly less than 10 to or not even 5% of the entire syllabus. So if you think that you can gain something substantial from that extra 5%, I think it will take a lot of time, a lot of your time will be consumed rather than you will get a real advantage of that 5%. So my first suggestion to all the students who are old students, if you have not attended the classes from beginning, like some of them joined a little late, if you are one of those students who have not been able to attend the class from starting, then you can definitely do this. But if you think that you have already completed all the 38 lectures of the previous class and you think that this would be an addition to what? No, guys, it would be just a substantiation of almost 5 to 10%. 5 to 10% just based on the current events that has happened in the past few weeks. So don't be under this impression that you're missing out on something. Okay, first point. Now, guys, the point that I would like to talk about, it is to for the new students who have joined in. So students, whoever has joined the second batch, lot of students were asking questions regarding study material, lot of questions were being asked regarding how to make notes and such. Don't worry, guys, today is the first day of our classes, and you can expect from today to the next 30 lectures, at least 30 lectures. In the last batch I took 37 lectures, right? So you should also be mentally prepared that the class may get extended by up to 1 or 2 lectures. It should not go to 37 lectures because of some technical reasons. It happened in the last time, but this time it is not going to happen like that. Okay, so if you have to be mentally prepared that in the next 30 lectures we'll be learning everything that is there in the subject of environment. See, PMF already makes the best book on environment in the country. In the country, I'm saying. It's a fact. So we have to match the standards what PMF has made in terms of book, and that too we have to reciprocate the same standards in the classes also. So our classes have to be the best in the country, and that's why we provide holistic coverage of the entire subject. Okay, so mind my words, all of you, that whoever has joined right now, everything would be taken care of from scratch. Now, guys, before I start with the first topic of our discussion, I would first like to talk about the basics here, right? And let me tell you that I want all of you to be very participative in the class. Ask me as many questions as you can. I like those batches more where the students interact and ask questions, interact with the teacher and ask questions. So ask me as many questions as you can. Feel free to ask. Okay. And wherever you have any problem, in the subject, you stop me then and there in between the class and ask me. I will be available on through WhatsApp. You guys have already been added into the group. You can connect with me on WhatsApp. You must have noticed that I have posted a lot of questions to write for students. So those things I'll be reposting for you guys. Don't be under this impression that you will be missing out on something. Okay, so everything would start from scratch. So students who are old students, don't be frightened by the new activities or the repetitive activities that may be taking in the group. You have to respect the newcomers who have joined in recently. So I will start everything from the class 1 itself. Okay, so you will not be missing out on anything. Neither the old students will be missing out, not the new students. You all are basically considered to be one large group for the institute. Yes, so Sagar, you have written that you have a fear of writing answers. Don't worry, I'll help you out. I'm doing one-to-one sessions with students who all have written answers. I'm doing that already, right? So we'll have the same discussions with you also. Now guys, before I start, I want to believe that you guys are already aware that what is the pattern that is followed in the UPSC exam, right? We all know that UPSC is the 3-tier exam. The prelims has to be a multiple choice answers, multiple choice questions are there, and then we have the mains where we have to write answers, and then we have the interview, right, which is a personality interview, personal interview. Now when you talk about the subject of environment and ecology, when you talk about the subject of ecology, you will notice that approximately 14 to 16 questions are asked every year since 2013, when ecology as a discipline was introduced. 14 to 16 questions are there in the prelims exam. Just in the prelims exam, these many questions are there just in the prelims exam, right? And in the mains exam, every year, again since 2013, every year you can expect around 2 to 3 questions, right? But I will not be limiting my points only in terms of the number of questions, because if you look at the question paper of mains, there are many other subjects like international relations. A lot of international relations today are building up on environment. Countries are signing agreements for sharing environmental or climate related data. Countries are signing agreements for sharing information regarding climate change, right? Strategies of protecting or mitigating the impact of climate change. So a lot of agreements are happening in that way. In fact, if I give you a simple concept to learn, G20, all of you know, the G20 summit happened in India in 2023. India was the then chairman of the G20. Now, when India was the chairman of G20, you'd be surprised to know that G20 ministerial meetings happened. There were total 17 meetings that happened in the country during that time. And out of those 17 meetings, nearly 6 to 7 meetings had agreements only related to environment. One of the agreement was climate change and its impact on agriculture, and the agreement was agriculture related to water security and all these things. So 6 to 7 agreements were directly or indirectly related to environment. So if I just consider the importance of ecology, ecology is having its own exclusive questions of 14 to 16 in the prelims. Its own exclusive questions in the mains would be around 2 to 3. But apart from that, if you talk about other subjects, international relations will have questions on ecology. You will have economics. Questions of economy can be related to environment. Just to give you one small point of view of thinking here, when you talk about, there is a term which will come across in the second chapter of environment. It is called invasive species. Invasive species alone is costing the world, across the world, it is costing around 432 billion US dollars worth of GDP. 432 billion US dollar worth of GDP is affected by a small invasive species, right? This is the impact that ecology has on economic affairs. Then guys, questions of geography will obviously be related to ecology. You will have ecological dimensions to be written in geography. And nowadays guys, if I consider social justice, even these subjects, all of them can be somewhat related to ecology. So I normally tell students that ecology is undoubtedly the most important chapter, the most important subject of civil service examination. Ecology today is the most important subject. Yes guys, it's true. It is the most important subject out of all subjects in the UPSC preparation. Why? Because this subject has nearly 16% weightage in the prelims, 2 to 3 questions in the mains dedicatedly on environment, and apart from that there are 4-5 subjects where you can put dimensions of ecology. So undoubtedly this is the most important subject. You can't expect to skip this subject at all, right? I hope all of you guys are able to understand this. Now the question comes, what type of topics are asked in the subject of environment? So if you talk about the subject of ecology, I normally tell students that there are 5 themes. There are 5 themes which are generally asked in the subject of environment. 5 themes are there. What are those 5 themes? The first theme, so you will notice that when we study, or whenever you guys are going to study, you have to make sure that you are knowing and understanding things on these 5 themes. These 5 themes cannot be skipped. You cannot afford to skip these 5 themes at all. Remember this, okay? So these are the 5 themes. What are those 5 themes? Number one is UPSC asks questions on issues related to environment. Whatever issues are there in the top subject of environment, whatever is related to environment, UPSC can ask questions on any of these issues, right? If I just write down few of the issues here, we know that climate change is one issue. We know environmental pollution is one issue. You can mention air, water, all these things separately. We know that groundwater depletion is another issue. We know loss of biodiversity is another issue. Land degradation is another issue. So there are a lot of environmental issues. UPSC can pick up questions from any environmental issue and ask. That is the first point what UPSC asks. The second area where UPSC asks questions, it is in terms of Indian initiatives. When I talk about Indian initiatives, UPSC can ask questions on environmental laws in India. Whatever environmental laws India has made, UPSC can ask questions related to various schemes and programs, initiatives, anything. In fact, guys, sometimes UPSC can ask questions related to Supreme Court or verdicts of various judges that may have given verdicts related to environment protection. Those kind of questions can also be asked. Then, guys, questions can also be asked. The third area from where UPSC asks questions, it is related to locations. Now, this is where a geography teacher may claim that location based questions are geography, but yes, they could be geography, but they are also having their exclusive importance. So location based questions like locations of national parks, wildlife sanctuaries and other protected areas or conservation sites, UPSC can ask questions from any of these areas, right? That is the third area or third theme from where UPSC asks questions in the subject of environment, right? The fourth theme, UPSC can ask questions on international initiatives. When I talk about international initiatives include, there are a lot of initiatives that have been taken at the international front, guys. Like there are a lot of international treaties that have been signed between India and other countries. There are a lot of various initiatives, especially if I talk about United Nations, right? United Nations. There are some other organization, IUCN, all these organizations, right? So there are a lot of international NGOs. There are a lot of initiatives taken up from United Nations and other NGOs affiliated to United Nations. They also have taken a lot of initiatives. UPSC can ask questions from that area also. Then, guys, the fifth area, the fifth theme from where UPSC can ask questions, it is on species. Species-based questions. The species-based questions are basically the ones which are related to the status of the species. Status basically means conservation status. The questions can be asked regarding their management, regarding their conservation, right? Anything can be asked related to species. And sometimes, guys, UPSC have asked questions just from the characteristics of a species. What kind of characteristics a species is supposed to have? So these kind of questions are expected to be asked. So UPSC, you will notice, now look at any of the previous question papers and you will notice that UPSC have never gone beyond these 5 themes. These are the 5 themes from where UPSC asks questions in the subject of civil services. Got it? These are the 5 themes. And you all will notice that even our classes, where as we go ahead, they would be revolving around these 5 areas only, right? Guys, my objective always have been to make sure that all students are able to attempt at least 80% of the questions, at least 80%. You know the reason why 80%, why not 100%? The reason for that is when you talk about species, this is a very complicated and a controversial theme. Just think about it, guys. If I just talk about species, there are nearly 140 lakh species. 1,40,000, not 140, 140,000 species. So there are 1,40,000 recorded species of plants and animals just in India. Just in India, we have these many species of plants and animals recorded. And this is only plants and animals, not even fungus. So if I talk about all the species on earth, including fungi, it is almost impossible, guys. According to some data, there are nearly 8.74 million species on earth. 8.74 million species on earth. How far we can remember all of them? Very difficult. So species is one area where I always tell students, mind my words, guys, write it down here itself. I always tell students that when it comes to species, you have to make sure that you are studying only those species which are there in your book, the PMFIS book, which is being discussed in the class, right, which is there in your class notes or which have been there in the news. There is no need of studying or reading about other species in India or in the world because there is no limit of reading here. The entire UPSC syllabus can be put aside and only only species could be set aside. So I will never recommend any student to go beyond this much of material. Just read whatever species are listed in the books, whatever are there discussed in the class, and whatever is there in the news. That's it. If we are lucky, we should be able to handle questions during the time of the exam through the preparation only with this much of preparation. But guys, nearly 3 to 4 questions can be asked from species. So you can expect that nearly 20% of the ecology questions comes from species part. Last year there were 4 questions. One of the species I was able to discuss it in the class. Rest 3 I did not discuss. So you guys can understand, I always tell students that we have to do up to 80%. Because species is one area which can be highly complicated. If we are lucky, maybe all the questions that are asked are from the class notes only. But if you are unlucky, then not even a single question may be asked. But at least you have to make sure that you are able to perform 80% perfectly. So that is the objective, that 80% questions will come from this particular 4 sections. So this 80% you have to make sure that you are able to do accurately. And I will be touching maximum possible depth that is possible in the subject in these 4 areas. Are you guys able to understand? In these 4 areas, I will be touching maximum possible depth. I hope all of you are able to understand. These are the 5 themes for civil services exams. Now guys, the next topic before I start the actual discussion, the next point of discussion is how are we going to prepare? What is going to be our own strategy of preparation? So our own strategy of preparation will be revolving around, first, how are we going to make notes? First, we will talk about how are we going to make our class notes. And then secondly, we'll talk about what is going to be our approach in studying everything around us. Okay. So guys, the next topic of our discussion is how to make class notes. Now guys, before I talk about class notes, let me just quickly summarize what all things you are supposed to get from PMF. What all things you are going to get from PMF. Let me summarize all those things in one go. So guys, PMF is providing you their own book, right, which is going to be our textbook. Our standard textbook is going to be the PMF book, right, book on environment. The second source that you get from PMF is PMF Magnum. Magnum is basically a compilation of current affairs. It is the compilation of current affairs. Compilation. Then apart from that, you will be getting PMF Current Affairs A to Z. The A to Z current affairs, which is uploaded on a daily basis, right? And guys, apart from these three sources, the PMF YouTube channel, I will be making some short videos. I will start the short videos from tomorrow, right? And basically we were doing it till the first week of July, but we have been thinking of changing it and reintroducing the concept of making current affair related videos. So from tomorrow, or most likely today also, I may be able to upload. So I make the video today. It would be on Ramsar convention for old students. They should be able to understand. So basically we'll start making short videos on all the topics of environment. So alongside with that, there will be some PMF YouTube content, right? PMF YouTube content. Guys, these are the 4 sources that you are going to get. Now the question is, how far you will be in a position to carry all 4 of these sources to the examination hall? It is difficult. At the time of the examination, none of you will have the time, none of you will have the energy to look at all the 4 sources and revise. In fact, guys, once the classes gets over, many of you will struggle to look back the class notes, because you will be engaged in a different subject. You will be studying a different subject altogether, and you will not have the time to look at the class notes again. So revision of class notes will get affected right when the classes gets over, because you will be engaged in a different subject, right? Like for the old batch students, I'm going to start science and technology from tomorrow. Of course, they will be their concentration will be shifted to science. Then the ecology notes, many of them will not be able to finish. So that is why we have planned that we'll be going in, we'll be giving a break in between to the students, and also for new admissions to take place, because we'll have to balance out, right? So that other students don't struggle. So what I tell students all the time, and this is a very practical advice, that when you make class notes, when you guys make class notes, suppose this is your notebook, right? So when you are making class notes, when you're writing in your notebook, I always tell students that you write your class notes on one side. You write them on one side. On one side, use the space for making class notes. Whatever notes I'm giving you, whatever notes you are taking from the class, write them down on one side of the notebook and leave the other side completely vacant. But what you are going to use this other side for? So this other side that you have left completely vacant, this is going to be used for current affairs. You guys know already that ecology is a highly current affairs inspired subject. A lot of current affairs are there in ecology. So use this vacant space for adding current affairs. You can use the source Magnum or current affairs A to Z, or even YouTube, any of these sources. You can use this particular source for updates from book, from the textbook, See, although I will be covering almost every chapter of the PMF book, but still book is written for almost 800 pages. It of course has a lot of content which I may not have marked, or which I may not have taken up in the class. So the way we'll progress, we'll start with one chapter. You guys have to make sure that you're reading that chapter simultaneously, and whatever things you find as an update from the class notes. So let's say for example, we are talking about loss of biodiversity or biodiversity conservation. So I will start giving you conservation sites, national parks, protected areas like wildlife sanctuary, national park, conservation reserve, and all these things. But suddenly you come across to an important section given in the Wildlife Protection Act related to national park. Like section 35 notifies Wildlife Protection Act. Suppose I do not mention that in the class, but you find that update in the book. So you use that update and write it on the blank side of the topic. So whatever topic is going on one side, you have to write all the updates of those topic on the other side. And guys, use this particular section in writing examples as well. Because you know what, when you talk about examples, this is where most species are going to be covered, right? So sometimes what may happen, that we may be talking about certain topic and at this time of the day, but maybe after 2-3 days I come across to a new news article which talks about a new species related to a topic that we discussed 2-3 days back. You can use the blank space for writing examples, right, like this. So when it comes to writing your notes should be written like this. On one side, write all the class notes as and when you are writing in the class, and the other side leave it vacant and add all these updates on the other side of the notebook. In this way, you will have one standard book, you will have one standard text material before you appear in the exam. Guys, just think about it. It is impossible to carry the Magnum book, the PMF environment book, or even the current affair A to Z for the entire year. But it is possible to carry one source material. So if you carry this one source material which contains all your class notes and also all the related content, related update, related current affairs, then you have nothing else to look for. You have got the entire study material in just one source, in just one book. And guys, mind my words, whenever you are writing things in the vacant part, write in keywords. There is no need to write full sentence. Write in keywords, guys. Just keywords, mention them, because the theory is here already, right? The theory is already here. Write only the keywords so that you can understand all these things, right? You can understand all these things. Sagar, you write notes on a tablet. Okay. See, a lot of students also make notes on a tab. I have no problem with students who make notes on tablets. But you have to make sure that you are also doing enough writing practice at the same time, because I have seen, because I've also written on a tab multiple times, the tablet does not put that kind of effort on your fingers when you're making notes, when you're writing on a tab. It feels much smoother. But at the time of the examination, when you're writing on an actual sheet of paper, the sheet of paper tends to slow us down, right? So you have to perform enough practice of answer writing that you are able to easily write, in your finest handwriting possible on a proper sheet of paper as well, right? But of course, if you're writing on a tablet, that's not an issue. Then obviously you can add some more lines, some more pages in between and make all the updates, right? You can do it that way. So this is basically the process of making class notes. So when you talk about all the class notes that we make, I recommend, and I not just recommend this for environment, but I also recommend the same for science as well, right? So for science and environment, for both the topics, I recommend the class notes should be made in this manner. I hope all of you guys are able to understand. In this manner, the class notes has to be made. I hope all of you guys are able to get it. So that is the issue on class notes. Now guys, the question is, so this is how we are going to study the subject. I'm going to basically give you all the things in the class, but you will write it on one side, leave the other side for all the updates. Okay, this is how you have to make notes. And other than this, if you think that you can make notes in another way, which is more comfortable in your preparation standard, then you can follow that advice also. I have no problem in that. It is just a suggestion from my side, because at the time of the exam, you can only rely on one source. If you're carrying 5 sources, it is very difficult. Carrying one book for current affairs, carrying another book for class notes, it is difficult. But if you carry just one notebook which contains all the current affairs and every detail that you may be needing, then it is the best source available. Okay, so that's how one should be writing class notes. I hope all of you guys are able to get it. Now, what all things you're going to get in the class? What all things you can expect in the class? So guys, class notes is something that you are also already going to get. But apart from that, I'm also going to provide you practice questions, right? Some practice questions are going to be there, which I'm going to upload as and when we finish a topic. So there are 23 questions that I have made for the previous batch. In your batch, the questions will not be less, it will be rather more questions, right? So I will definitely be crossing 25 in your batch, right? So some practice questions I'm going to share, and for these practice questions, I am going to offer a one-to-one discussion. A one-to-one discussion. Why a one-to-one discussion? Because this is somewhere I have to make sure that you all are having the right standards of answer writing. And let me tell you about my own story of civil service exams. See guys, I appeared in 5 UPSC attempts. I gave 5 attempts. I never gave 6th attempt. I gave a total of 5 attempts. And I was fortunate enough, and rather I would say that I was lucky enough to qualify all the 5 prelims. All 5 prelims I was able to qualify. But when it comes to the mains examination, I cleared only 1 mains and appeared in only 1 interview, right? So out of all my attempts, 1 mains I cleared. I gave 5 mains, but 1 mains I cleared and 1 interview I gave. So you can understand that my biggest regret or my biggest concern is always related to answer writing. Because I still think that I did not do enough answer writing practice that was needed. I still think that, right? That I did not perform enough answer writing practice. Guys, just think about it. When it comes to the UPSC exam, I'm just giving you one idea so that it should be clear in your mind that why am I emphasizing on this. See, there is 2 to 3 questions that you can expect on the subject of environment. And for those 2 to 3 questions, I'm going to give you, let's suppose, 25 questions to practice. Now, 25 questions to practice, I'm not saying that it's a very big number. There is a chance, mind my words, there is a chance that whatever 25 questions I will give you to write, UPSC may not ask even a single of those questions. Let's consider the worst case scenario that I gave you 25 questions to practice, and I'm telling you this is the part of the class. PMF as an institution will keep giving you practice questions to write. They'll keep giving you a lot of other practice sessions, right? Numerous practice sessions are there on PMF. But this is what I'm going to offer from my end in the class. This is what I'm saying. So let's suppose I give you 25 questions and not even a single question is asked out of those 25 questions. What you guys will think? You think that the classes have been of no use? Because this is what students normally think, that if the questions are not there in the question paper, that means the classes were not of any use. No guys, that's not the case. See, even if there is not even a single question asked from our question bank, from our question inventory, but just think about it guys. If you have written 25 questions, if you have practiced 25 questions, and for each questions you have written 5 new points. 5 new points you have written for each question. That means you have now a question, you have now a bank, a fixed deposit in your brain of 125 different dimensions, 125 different points. And from these 125 points and dimensions, can't you create a new answer for any question that can be related to ecology? So guys, my point is, whatever 25 questions I'm going to give you, I'm going to make sure that all these 25 questions are different questions from different topics, from different avenues of ecology environment, so that we end up having a good mix of 125 dimensions in our mind, so that when you are actually appearing in the exam, those 125 dimensions should be there in your mind, and you would know, okay, this is what I'm supposed to write for this answer, this is what I'm supposed to write for this question. So the 25 questions are not there to basically give you the question paper in hand. It is basically going to prepare you that if a question is asked not from these 25 and UPSC asks completely a different question, you still have a knowledge of 125 dimensions that is there in your brain, that you have covered for writing 25 questions, and those 125 dimensions would be more than enough to write an exceptionally good answer. Are you guys able to understand? That is the point of answer writing practice. So guys, this is everything that I'm going to offer you. And guys, apart from this, you have also enrolled for a one-to-one mentoring session. So I also make sure that time to time I will be sending some text messages where I will be asking you guys if you have any problem, and randomly also on the group I'll be asking these things, right? That if you guys have any problem in the preparation, you can straight away consult. You can talk to me, you can message, you can talk, or you can also consult the PMF team. They will also be happy to mentor you at any time you feel like. I hope all of you guys are able to get it. This is what everything you will be getting in the course. Now guys, apart from this, when it comes to the subject, when it comes to the preparation of environment and ecology, remember that environment and ecology is a subject that is heavily influenced by current affairs. So this is my personal request to all of you, that be very vigilant in covering the current affairs. The current affairs A to Z that is provided by PMF IAS, I find it to be very well drafted, very well made, very well drafted. Do make sure that you are looking at downloading the current affairs and reading them on a daily basis. Okay, this can be very helpful, not only from the subject of environment but also from science and other subjects point of view, I'm saying, right? So it's a very good source material, and you guys can have blind faith on this material. I hope all of you guys are able to understand. This is what I'm expecting all of you guys to prepare, right? Now this is where I had some questions that were already pending to answer. I hope I've been able to answer these questions. Any other question that you guys have in your mind, you can write in the chat. I'll be happy to respond, or you can even raise your hand. I'll be asking you to unmute yourself. Should we read current affairs by ourselves, or there's going to be current affair lectures? See, current affairs A to Z is going to be there in the form of written content, but current affairs lectures are going to be in a form of a crash course that they will be starting. It's called the Magnum course, which will be starting, I think, somewhere in the month of February. They would start February to March. They may start, and that is basically dedicatedly meant for current affairs. So in that discussion also, they make sure that all the current affairs are discussed for past 1 year. Okay, but mind my words, guys. Again, I'm telling you this, and I'm telling you this on a very serious note, that there is no point of current affairs if our foundation is weak. So please give equal emphasis to the foundation. This is the foundation class. This will build your foundation to such an extent that current affairs are easily understood, easily absorbed in your long-term memory. Okay, so use the class notes, this pattern, and keep updating yourself. You know, the best preparation would be that when you will reach to the current affair classes, you will be finding all the current affairs very well known, right? Already known, already read. That means you have studied already, you know, in the best possible way. Now guys, one last. So I hope all of you guys have been able to understand. Please tell me yes in the chat if you guys have understood the discussion so far. Please tell me yes in the chat, or you guys can show me a thumbs up on the by using those emojis. All right, Chirag, you have understood. Very good. What about Sagar, Tarun, Nisha? What do you guys think? Which one is better, daily, monthly, or weekly? It's a good question though. See, when it comes to current affairs, the best source is newspaper, right? The best source. I'm telling this hands-on, that the best source is always the newspaper. Newspaper gives you a way of reading current affairs. You know why it's a good source? Let me give you one example, and this example will come up very handy. So what happens? There has been a topic related to environment and ecology, and it is basically the conference of parties under UNFCCC. Those of you who are not aware, this is basically an international treaty which is trying to protect the planet Earth from the harmful effects of global warming, right? So it's an international treaty. India is also a member. Now, you know what happened? If you are reading current affairs, let's suppose in a monthly source, in a source which is coming up monthly, then it is very likely that this monthly source of current affairs will cover the entire COP, Conference of Party, once. It normally happens in the month of December. So most likely the December current affairs will have all the details of Conference of Parties, right? Because it is an event that happened once it goes on for 3 to 10 days, right? 3 days where the prime ministers are there, and then the rest 7 days environment minister is there. So normally 10 days is the longevity of this particular summit. So if you are reading a monthly source, you will come across to the news of this particular summit once. But if you are reading a daily news source, whether it is newspaper or if it is the PMF current affairs A to Z, daily current affairs A to Z, That means in such a source, you'll be reading about this event at least for 10 days. For every day, whatever development has happened, you'll be reading about these developments on a daily basis. And then apart from that, there would be a lot of other discussions that would be there coming up on various sources that may also be given to you for the next 1 week. So what I'm saying is that the event that happened for 10 days, if you are reading about this event from a monthly source, then you will have the entire event covered in one go. You'll be reading it and you'll be happy. But if you are reading the source which is updated on a daily basis, like a newspaper or the PMF A to Z, then you'll have the same event covered for at least 10 dates and very much 15 days, right? Because it will give you the information about what to expect from the upcoming COP, then what is happening in the upcoming COP, and what is going to be the impacts of all these agreements that have been signed. In this way, you are reading the same material, you are reading the same topic at least 15 times. Now, Sagar, you only tell me in which possibility you have a higher chance of remembering it for in long term. When you read it just once at the end of the month, or when you're reading it 15 days constantly, every now and then you are getting news or some new inputs about the COP, which one is easier? Reading the same thing 15 times is easy to remember it for long term, or reading the things just once? It is obvious, guys, when you keep reading the things multiple times, only then we are able to remember, only then we are able to recall. So guys, there have been lot of news which would be there in the class just discussed once. There will be a lot of news which would be there in the monthly sources just discussed once, annual sources just discussed once. But if you follow some daily current affairs sources, you'll be having the same content covered at least 5 to 10 times. And when 5 to 10 times a topic has been covered, there is no doubt that those readings for 5 to 10 days will automatically push that topic in your long-term memory, and then you will never forget that topic because you have read it 10 times in a go. Are you able to understand, Sagar? So I will always recommend students to follow any source. I'm not even saying, even though I'm working for PMF right now, I'm not even saying that if you are comfortable in reading Hindu newspaper, you read the Hindu newspaper. If you are comfortable in reading Indian Express, you read the Indian Express. But I will not recommend Indian Express because for my subject, Indian Express never do the required justice. Hindu newspaper gives much better content on environment and as well as for science. Indian Express is a good newspaper, but not for environment and science. They have very short coverage for environment and science, right? So that is the point. So I will strongly recommend that follow those current affairs sources which are updated on a daily basis, because daily when you come across to new things, you have a higher chance of remembering them in a longer run. And guys, one more thing, UPSC, because I'm here, although I'm teaching environment here, but you understand that you are going to appear for the entire examination of UPSC, which has many more other subjects. So guys, one question that can come into your mind, that when to study or when to read newspaper or when to understand all these PMF A to Z current affairs. So of course it is important that you follow current affairs, but the question is how far you will be able to understand current affairs. That is a different thing. Let's say, for example, we are starting the class today, and today itself the current affair news on environment talks about something that we have not covered. Of course those things are going to confuse you, right? So mind my words, whatever things that we have not been able to cover in the class, or whatever things that you find difficult in the current affair A to Z, do not get worried that you are not able to understand. Just share those topics with me. Write to me on WhatsApp. Just if you can, just take a photograph of that particular article that you are reading, whether it is from PMF A to Z or if it is from the newspaper. You just click the photograph and share it with me and ask me, sir, is it an important article or are we going to cover this topic? So I will give my feedback based on that particular article, when to read. See, there is no alternative of current affairs. There is no alternative of current affairs. It's a very important topic. But what is the right time to start current affairs? That is equally important. So we can only expect to understand current affairs when we have read something. So the first topic that I would start would be climate change, And when I start with the topic of climate change, it will take at least 7 to 8 lectures that we'll have some understanding, we'll have some confidence on climate change. And then when you start reading newspapers, there should not be even a single topic in the newspaper or from the PMF A to Z current affairs that you will not be able to understand. You should be able to understand everything. That should be your objective, and that is my objective also. Then Chirag has asked a question. When we come across new species in the current affairs, do we have to learn its scientific names as well, because you find them tough to remember? All right, don't worry again, Chirag. Although when it comes to my science topics, in the subject of science, I give some, not tricks, but basically some ways to remember. But I have the same way of teaching in ecology also. I share some of the information in the for ecology, which will find remembering biological names a little easy. But let me tell you that biological names otherwise are not very important. UPSC have asked biological names also, right? Scientific names, biological name, they have asked those biological nomenclature, but it is not a compulsion, because whenever scientific names are asked, they often write the common name or the popular name of that organism. So it will not be very difficult, right? Even if you skip the biological names, it is not going to have a problem. And there are few ways you can even remember them, right? I'll share those tricks with you. Normally I discuss that part in the subject of science. Okay. But here also, if I have time, I can talk about it. Okay. So that should not be a problem. But it's a good question that species that you understand that species based questions are there. Okay. So guys, I hope I've been able to answer all the questions related to what to prepare, how to prepare, and all these things. Right now, let us start with our discussion. Let us start with our discussion here. And guys, this is something which I ask all students. This is something that I ask all students whenever I'm starting the topic. And this is a piece of advice that I will give to every student. Okay, so first I'll start with that piece of advice, that small piece of advice, and then I'm going to ask you the question that I want you to answer. So guys, the first small piece of advice, I hope the students who have taken my orientation earlier, they would be able to recall. And this is what I tell every student to follow. So guys, remember, you guys are right now preparing for civil services. Okay. And I want to believe that all of you are in your 20s right now. Most of you should be in your 20s, right? Remember, students, that this age where you are at right now is the most productive age of your life. There is no other age where you can be more productive than this. You just recall, guys, how productive we were when we were in college. There were days then that we did not study at all, and then suddenly the examination comes, and in just a week we are able to finish the entire book of 1,000 pages. We are able to complete it. We are able to complete complex topics which otherwise were so difficult. We are able to understand those complex topics just one night before the exam. That is actually the power of a very active mind. I believe many of you might be able to recall your college days, your school days. When your mind is at its highest activity level, it is able to gather a lot of information in a very small time. And guys, mind my words, your brain has no limitations. If you want to train your brain to do the unthinkable, it can do the unthinkable, guys. Mind my words. So what I'm telling you, that the best preparation for civil services is that you start today itself and follow your temperament in a way that next day is the UPSC exam. You have to keep that kind of temperament where we are able to learn things in just 1 week, when we have spent the entire year playing, and just last 1 week we are able to learn and break all possible records of learning. You have to keep that kind of mindset alive. You have to keep that kind of active mindset on a daily basis. This is one small piece of advice, that you have to keep a very active brain. And for an active brain, guys, just small piece of advice here, keep a room for hunger. Mind my words, guys, we are at our most active level. When you are in your most active level, you are actually having little bit of hunger in your stomach. Just think about it, guys. Let me explain this to you. I often give this example to the students that if you talk about tiger, if you talk about a tiger is an incredible hunter, right? A tiger is an incredible hunter. There is no other animal that can actually hunt better than a tiger. Why am I saying that? Because tigers, if suppose you are in a national park, a tiger reserve, in a critical tiger habitat, let's suppose you are in a critical tiger habitat, and suddenly a tiger has locked you as his target. Now, if you run, a tiger can run faster than you. If you think of climbing a tree, a single jump of a tiger can go up to 18 feet. That's how far a tiger can jump. A tiger can jump up to 18 feet tall tree also in just a single jump. Just with one support, a tiger can jump that much. And if you think that you can jump into a river, a tiger is a naturally born swimmer who is capable of swimming faster than you. And if you think that you can hide into a cave and just hide in the darkness of the cave, you'll be surprised to know that a tiger is born with a natural night vision. It can see in the dark. So the point is, wherever you run, a tiger will hunt you down. That means if a tiger is hungry, it can never starve to death. Are you able to understand? The condition is hunger, guys. It is the hunger that makes the tiger do the unthinkable. It is the hunger, right? If the tiger is full, he will run away, right? If a tiger is full, he will run away from you guys, or he may be lying somewhere completely helpless, completely, lethargic. The point is hunger. Always keep a little room for hunger. Do not eat with your full stomach. Always eat whatever. So you should be eating food so that there is some room for hunger left. Mind my words, this hunger in your stomach actually improves your sensory system. It's a scientifically proven fact. Your hunger in the stomach makes your sensory system more active, and that is something what is required for you to develop. And you will never leave even a single point that I'm targeting towards you, that I'm firing towards you. And guys, one last piece of advice. So always leave a little room for hunger. And last piece of advice, guys, many of you might have been given 6 attempts from UPSC. Many of you might be having 9 attempts. Some of you may be having unlimited attempts, right? UPSC has given different numbers of attempts to different categories. But guys, remember this. Life has given you just one attempt. Life has given you one attempt. In no circumstances, you should be giving more than 2 attempts. In no circumstances you should be giving more than 2 attempts. Mind my words, guys. Mind my words. When it comes to the civil services exams, in no circumstances you should be giving more than 2 attempts. The reason why I'm saying this, guys, you are in your 20s right now. This is the most productive time of your life. There is no other moment in your life which can be as productive as this moment. So do not spend this time in just preparing for civil services. The best success journey to civil services when you qualify in the very first attempt. But in no circumstance you should be giving more than 2 attempts. See, Sagar, again I'm saying, it does not matter how many attempts UPSC has given us. What matters is how much attempts we are taking to qualify the exam. In no circumstances we should be taking more than 2 attempts. In no circumstances we should be taking more than 2 attempts. This is something which I am telling you like an elder brother, that you should write this on your study table. Write this on your study table right now itself, that 2026, if you are aiming for 2026, write it on your study table that 2026 is going to be my last attempt. You will not be going for 2027. And guys, if for any reason, suppose if you are not prepared in 2026, in no circumstances you should be going beyond 2027. In all possibilities, 2027 should be your last attempt, and that's it. 2027. Okay, in no circumstances you should go beyond 2027. Got it, all of you? So this is what matters here. You should not be giving more than 2 attempts. But guys, here there is a disclaimer. Suppose if you are already working, if you are already a working professional, or if you have already qualified some other exam, and then you tell, and you talk to me and tell me that, sir, I'm going to give my 3rd attempt, I will tell you that yes, give your 3rd attempt. Suppose if you are able to clear the prelims and reach the mains, I will definitely tell you that give the mains exam in the 3rd attempt. Give the 3rd attempt. But you understand, you have to keep progressing. If we are stuck at the prelims and we are not able to go through prelims in the first 2 attempts, it is better that we do something else. Because mind my words, guys, you are at such an age, whatever you are going to do at this age, and if you continue to do that for the next 5-6 years, you will make wonders happen. Mind my words, you will literally make wonders happen. If I quickly briefly talk about my own life story, when I was doing I did my engineering and then did my masters in sustainable development. That's how my inclination towards environment started. So I remember when I was doing my engineering, I was never fascinated with civil services. I never had a plan of preparing for civil services. My intent was that I will get into some corporate job, and then I will work there for 2-3 years, and then I'll go to some Ivy League university for MBA. Such an innovative plan for an engineer, right? Almost every second engineer is doing the same thing, right? So when it comes to my own engineering days, I did not have a plan for civil services. But what happened, the first job, I worked in 3 companies, guys. I worked in Blue Star Air Conditioning, I worked in India Yamaha Limited, and I've also worked in Jindal Steels. Jindal Steels was my longest employer. So when I was working for Jindal Steels, my entire work was mostly to interact with civil servants. So I was interacting with civil servants, I was interacting with metro officials, I was interacting with chief engineers and also IAS officers for water supplies and such. So during that time, my interactions with them inspired me for their job, because that's when I learned that one single signature can change the fortune of a village. Their single call to the SP or their single call to the SP can help them file a complaint. So all these kind of things happens. That's when I realized that if you really want to bring change in your country, there is no better profession than civil services. And I got inspired at that time. So I worked for 2 years and then I started preparing for civil services, right? And that's when I got inclined towards studying masters in sustainable development and such. So what I'm saying is that if I would have continued in that corporate job, and if I would have worked for 10 years, I would have succeeded in that field itself. And in that area also, people would have known me as a good engineer. I hope you understand, right? Because if you spend the most productive time of your life pursuing something, following something, you can literally make wonders happen in that particular field. That's what I'm saying. So in no circumstances you should be giving more than 2 attempts, right? I hope all of you understand. Of course, if you want to give more than 2 attempts, you talk to me, talk to a mentor, talk to me, or talk to other mentors or other staff members of PMF. They will help you out that whether this is the right attempt for you or not. I hope all of you guys are able to understand. So this is my suggestion from my side. So write in your study table today itself that life has given you just 1 attempt. 2026 is going to be your last attempt, right? If not 2026, in no way 2027. If you are already preparing for 2027, write it. 2027 is your first and last attempt. That's it. See, this is a fantastic exam, but this exam should not cost your entire youth. I hope you guys are able to understand. It should not take your entire youth away. This is a fantastic job, no doubt about it, but this should not take your youth away. I hope all of you understand this. Got it? I personally feel pity when I see people saying that we will enroll school students for UPSC coaching. And I have seen that happening also. Because teaching for so many years, I've realized that. But that's when I start thinking that what is the point of leaving all the aspirations of the child and dragging him into a rat race, right? So I always expect students to live to the fullest, and especially in your 20s, because whatever you learn in your 20s and you practice those things throughout your 20s, you'll be very successful in that field. You see, India needs all professionals, not just civil servants. Mind my words. So guys, this is everything in the initial part. I have taken more than 1 hour. Normally I finish the entire discussion in 1 hour. So this is where I finished my entire pitch. I hope all of you guys have been able to understand. We have talked about what to study, how to study, and what all things, what some piece of advice. Now guys, my first question to you. my first question to you is, guys, what is the purpose of knowing environment for us? Why UPSC wants us to study environment? What do you guys think? I want you guys to ask as many questions and answer as many questions as I ask. Please tell me, guys, what do you think? Why UPSC wants us to study science? Sorry, wants us to study environment. Science we are starting tomorrow. I'm sorry, guys. Why UPSC wants us to study environment? What is so special about environment ecology that UPSC wants us to study this? See, when you join the civil services, it is obvious that you will be joining as an administrator, right? You will not be joining as an environmentalist, right? You will be joining as an administrator. So why environment? Why not polity? Why not these subjects have a greater weightage? Why environment has such a high weightage? Environment affects us and also we affect in many ways. All right, very good. So environment is everything around us is environment, right? So whatever we do is basically going to affect the environment. Good point, Chirag. Anybody else? All right, neo-determinism is basically a kind of a, okay, we can relate it. Environmentalism is considered to be an offshoot of neo-determinism, right? Where basically everything that we do is basically, it determines your actions or determines your results, right? Then anybody else? Anybody else? Why there is a need to study ecology environment for civil services? Guys, let me tell you the practical reason why UPSC wants you to study this, right? The practical reason is we cannot ignore environment as we live with it. It's a part and parcel of our life. Very good. Responsible for our surroundings. We have to be responsible for our surroundings. Very good, Sagar. Jyoti, very good. We cannot ignore environment. All right, perfect. So guys, so these are the pointers, which is something that an environment teacher would want to listen. But guys, the practical reason why UPSC wants us to study environment, you guys understand when you talk about the prelims exam, prelims exam is not only for civil services, but also for Indian Forest Services, right? The prelims is basically meant for two services. One is civil services and the forest services. And guys, it is obvious that for a forest service individual, it is important that that person should have a keen observation of environment, a keen observation of ecology and the biodiversity around or in and around the country, right? So one reason is because the prelims is shared with forest service. That is one of the reasons. The second reason for this is, if you talk about all major news, if you talk about all major current affairs, which is an important part and parcel of overall UPSC preparation, when you talk about all major current affairs, you will notice that almost on a daily basis, like guys, there is some days when you do not have news on cricket, right? Today we have news on cricket because yesterday India has won the 5th test match, and that too in a very dramatical manner, right? Dramatic manner. So, but even though there will never be a news on cricket every day, there would never be news on RBI every day, there would never be news on India's foreign policy every day, right? Every day there may not be a very important news. Of course, there is obviously going to be economy news every day, but economy news that is important for us, it may not happen every day. International relation news important to us may not happen every day. But interestingly, today almost on a daily basis, there is some or the other environmental news that comes not only from India but from across the world, and almost on a daily basis there is some value additions happening in our understanding of environment, right? In our understanding of environment. Like for example, what comes to our mind straight away here as I talk to you, we know that there are species going extinct, but at the same time there is a term which has got popularized. It's called de-extinction, where we are able to bring species back from the dead with the help of modern biotechnology. So every now and then new terminologies are there, every now and then new news keeps coming up which is related to environment. So guys, there are two reasons which literally cannot eliminate environment from the UPSC syllabus, is that when you talk about all the major current events that is occurring, environment is holding a strong position today. And secondly, when you talk about the prelim syllabus itself, it is Indian Forest Services is a part of the prelims exam, so environment ecology has to be a part, right? I hope all of you guys are able to understand. So these are the simple two reasons which which makes sure that environment ecology will have its set weightage. It is not going to be changing much beyond 15%. It will be there. 15% of paper will be having environment ecology. It cannot go lower than this. I hope all of you get it. Now guys, the second question that I have for you, guys, you all know that when it comes to the topic of environment protection, we already know that we have written the issues already in the previous discussion, that India is facing so many environmental challenges. World is facing so many environmental challenges like climate change, degradation of groundwater, degradation of forest, land, right? Loss of biodiversity, loss of green cover. All these are important challenges that India is facing. But guys, we also know that India as a country has come up with a lot of environmental initiative as well. You all must have heard that there is something called Green India Initiative, which is an initiative for afforestation. You all might have heard of Green Highway Policy, which is an initiative to, to surround all our highways and expressways with large trees. You all might have heard of EVs. Government of India is promoting electric vehicles so that we can reduce the air pollution in the cities. All these initiatives, I'm very sure all of you must have heard. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is meant for urban cleanliness, urban and rural cleanliness, and cleanliness also affects your health because it helps you to have less contamination around you, a much more healthier environment, and healthier environment improves your longevity, improves your happiness, right? My question to you is, guys, when we talk about environment protection, when Government of India comes up with initiatives saying that this initiative is for environment protection, EVs are for environment protection, right? Ethanol blending with petrol is for environment protection because it reduces the carbon footprint. So when they come up with these kind of excuses and say that this is done for environment protection, guys, tell me something. Are humans really capable of environment protection? Are humans as a species, are we really capable of protecting the environment? What do you guys think? Tell me. What do you guys think, guys? Are humans as a species really capable of protecting the environment? Are we really capable of saving the planet Earth? Tell me, guys, we as human, we are just one species. I have told you already that planet Earth has a total of 8.74 million species. Out of these 8.74 million species, humans are just one species. So tell me, are we really capable of protecting the environment? Are we really capable of saving the Earth? What do you guys think? Quickly. Are we really capable of protecting the environment? Guys, let me just give you my point of view here. Let me just give you my point of view. When you talk about environment protection, Chirag, you are saying partially capable because these are both natural and anthropogenic factors. Alright, good point, Chirag. Good way of thinking. I'm really impressed. Right? Just to give you one point of view and what I normally tell students to think. Guys, do you know how old is our universe? Our universe is approximately 14 billion years old. This is the age of our universe. Point number one. Do you know how old is our sun? Our sun is around 5 billion years old. This is the age of the sun. And do you know how old is planet Earth? Our planet Earth is around 4.6 billion years old. Age of the planet Earth. And do you know since when Earth is supporting life? Do you know how old is life on Earth? The first living organism on Earth. How old is that? It is around 3.2 to 3.8 billion years old. The first life form on Earth, it originated around 3.2 to 3.8 billion years ago. First life form on Earth originated around 3.2 to 3.8 billion years ago. That was the time when the first life form originated. Right? I'm giving a very long window. Some books say 3.6 to 3.8. Some books says 3.4 to 3.8. Some books says 3.2 to 3.6. So I'm keeping a broader window. 3.2 to 3.8 billion years ago, life originated on Earth. Life originated on Earth. Of course, it was in the form of microorganisms, but it originated. Then guys, Do you know our ancestors, great apes? How old are great apes? All of you must have seen the movies like King Kong and such. How old are great apes? The primates, the first primates. It is around 2.5 million years old. The great apes. Great apes. And guys, do you know how old are humans? The current humans, Homo sapiens sapiens, the oldest evidence of the current humans is not older than 30,000 years. 30,000 years. That means the oldest evidence of the current humans is not more than 30,000 years. What I'm saying is that a species which has originated in the past 30,000 years only, how can this species be capable of protecting a planet which was always a living planet even when this species wasn't there? My point is that if the humans do not survive, if the humans go extinct, Earth will continue to be a living planet like it was always. When humans were not even here, Earth was a living planet. And when humans would not be there in future, Earth will continue to be a living planet. My point is, when we say that we are trying to protect the environment, we are actually not protecting environment, guys. We are protecting our own self. Because we know that this change in the environment is causing the earth to get warmer with time. We cannot survive at the warmest of the temperature. We can survive to some warm temperature, but if the temperature crosses 2-3 degrees Celsius, a lot of our rivers are going to go completely dry. A lot of our groundwater would be completely depleted. It is difficult for even the current human generation to survive during those days. So what I'm saying is that instead of calling environment protection, don't you think we should start calling it self-protection? Don't you think so? Tell me yes in the chat, guys. What do you guys think? Instead of calling environment protection as initiatives that we take, we should rather start calling it self-protection, because whatever we are doing, we are trying to make sure that Earth remains conducive for our survival, not for the survival of species that were there before us or species that will come after us. So instead of calling it environment protection, I always tell students that develop a mindset. So this is the central philosophy of my classes, that whatever we are studying, we are not studying for protecting the environment. We are studying it for protecting our own self, right? Does that mean Earth will recover again from degradation after decline of human civilization? Sadly, Chirag, you'll be surprised to know that there are a lot of scientific accounts which say that if the humans go extinct, all the other species which are endangered, it is said that their population will recover in a matter of just 20 years. In a matter of just 20 years, the species which are right now at the verge of extinction, their population is likely to recover in a matter of just 2 decades. Sadly, I'm afraid this is true. That humans, in fact, you might have seen, all of you must have witnessed that when COVID was going on, when the COVID lockdown was going on, you must have seen so many images, so many videos of animals being witnessed, being seen in those places which we never thought they were there. Like I saw a video of Odisha where there were deers dancing on a beach. They were literally dancing, they were literally playing around a beach in Odisha. I saw videos of Netrani Island in Karnataka where the Arabian Sea humpback whale returned after 4 decades. All of you must have seen videos of Gir National Park, the Gir lions, they were roaming on the streets where humans used to roam. All these things were possible mainly because this was the area that somehow, unfortunately, we encroached from them and they were completely deprived. I hope you guys are able to understand. So guys, let's not negotiate on this particular point much. It is just a sentiment that I'm giving you, that whatever we are studying, it is basically for our own benefit, not the benefit of something that is external to us. That's basically my point is. I hope, Chirag, you have been able to understand this point. right? So whatever we are studying, whatever we are going to study from today's class itself, I'll use the next half an hour to start something, right? It is basically meant for our own survival, our own environment, right? So that the environment remains conducive to us, right? I hope you are able to understand. Got it, all of you? So this is my first appeal to all of you, that when we study, we'll follow this particular mindset, that all this is meant for our own protection. I hope you guys are able to get it. Now, let me start with the first topic of our discussion. The first topic that I'm going to discuss is climate change and global warming. Climate change and global warming is going to be my first topic. Now, you may be wondering why climate change? Why don't I start with the basics of ecology and environment? So guys, I have a point here. Like, when you talk about climate change, even though you may not be an expert in environment, you may not be an expert in ecology, but you all are observers of climate change. Don't you think so? All of you have observed how climate change have been affecting our day-to-day life today, right? All of you know that how the rampant monsoonal shift, the extreme monsoonal winds, extreme monsoonal rainfall in areas causing extreme flooding. We have seen what has happened in Gujarat last month, right? We have seen what has been happening in Himachal Pradesh last month, right? We have seen, I think still, if I'm not wrong, there is a flood going on. I think in Gujarat only, I think there is another flood, and Maharashtra also, I believe there is a flood in Maharashtra as well. So every now and then we get to hear there are flooding happening in some of the major cities of the country, right? So all of us know that these are the impacts of climate change. All of us also know that, you know, when I gave my board exams, I appeared in my board exams in 2003, I appeared for my 10th board exams. I remember in the month of March, I was wearing a blazer to the school, to the board exam center. I was wearing a blazer. Today, this year, we got our AC serviced in the month of February because it was too hot in February. So all these are examples that are related to our own lifestyle. They are related to our own experiences. So I don't think when you start with climate change, all of us have stories to relate. All of us has, you know, concepts to relate with. So that's why I start with the topic of climate change first, because climate change is a topic which is directly associated with our own real life experiences. We all are eyewitnesses of climate change. So that's why I start with the topic of climate change. Now guys, let me start. So when I talk about climate change, please understand that climate change is something that is nothing but change in long-term weather pattern. What is climate, guys? Climate simply refers to long-term weather patterns. Long-term weather patterns is basically called climate, right? If I say in a simplest way, long-term weather patterns is called climate. So guys, long-term weather patterns like humidity, how much rainfall, how much average temperature, all these things, how much wind speed, all these are long-term weather patterns. If they are taken for a long average of at least 30 years, we call it climate. Got it? We call it climate, right? And what is climate change? It is the change in the long-term weather patterns. So when there is a change in the long-term weather patterns, we call it climate change. Now guys, remember the climate has been changing always. It has changed due to natural reasons. It has also changed due to, you know, multiple natural events. It's like sometime a volcanic eruption has happened, which has created a huge thick layer of ash over the entire planet Earth. So those volcanic eruptions will change the climate for some time, right? Sometimes a breakage like Pangea breakout, tectonic plates, the continental drift theory, which says that all the continents were once joined in a single large mega continent called Pangea, but because of continental drift, the Pangea broke apart into 7 different continents. So if the land masses break apart and starts shifting to other places, the long-term climate changes, long-term weather pattern changes in those areas. So change in the climate has happened naturally also. But guys, contemporary change, the contemporary change that is happening in the 21st century, or I would say from 20th century onwards, from 20th century onwards, the contemporary change that has happened, it has happened due to anthropogenic activities. due to anthropogenic activities. Anthropogenic means man-made activities. So the contemporary change that has happened, it is due to man-made activities, and these man-made activities is causing global warming. So this climate change is characterized with increase in global temperature. Increase in global temperature, right? So this is the current climate change. I don't have to get into the theory of climate change because that is not required. We are simply sticking to the contemporary climate change, which is characterized with global warming and mainly due to anthropogenic activities. Ever since the 20th century, we started observing it. So we started observing the change in the climate pattern since the beginning of the 20th century, right? I hope all of you understand. We can also say that the climate change started occurring from the advent of industrial revolution. Yes, that will also not be a wrong point. Industrial revolution happened in the second half, right? Like 1750 onwards. Second half of the 18th century. But the climate change was not a primary factor that was identified right after the industrial revolution, right? Industrial revolution changed a lot of things. It changed political system of the world. It changed the idea of democracy in the world. It also made the people aware about pollution controlling policies. But the concept of global warming and climate change has taken the center stage only in the 20th century, and that too in somewhere in the mid of the 20th century people started talking about it. Okay, so that is the current pattern of climate change. And guys, just to support my argument on climate change, when you talk about the average global temperature, it is approximately 15 degrees Celsius. 15 degrees Celsius is considered as the average global temperature. That means Earth is predominantly a much cooler planet. 15 degrees Celsius, Earth is predominantly a cooler planet. That is the average global temperature. But guys, according to various international reports, I'm not naming the reports here because we have not yet talked about those organizations, but according to various international reports, the temperature has already increased by 1.1 degrees Celsius to 1.2 degrees Celsius already. Already the temperature has increased by 1.1 to 1.2 degrees. That means the global temperature has already crossed 16.1 to 16.2 degrees Celsius average. This is now the average has already increased by 1.1 degrees Celsius. And guys, with all projections, we are not stopping here. It is believed that by 2030, the global temperature will cross 1.5 degrees Celsius, will increase by 1.5 degrees Celsius. By 2050, it is likely to increase by 2 degrees Celsius, right? By 2050. And guys, by 2100, it may increase by another 2.5 to 3 degrees Celsius if the things do not change. If nothing changes, if the way we have been developing goes on in the same manner, if we do not change our lifestyle, if we do not change our consumption pattern and nothing changes, it is likely that Earth will get warmer by 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2030. It will get warmer by 2 degrees Celsius by 2050 and up to 3 degrees Celsius by 2100. But guys, just think about it. Even though we are talking about 1.5 and 2 degrees, don't you think it is still a small number, guys? It is still a small number. See, if the average temperature is 15 degrees Celsius and if it increases by 2 degrees and turns into 17 degrees Celsius, will it be a big concern for us? A 2 degree increase is nothing. Don't you think so? Will it be a big concern for us if the average temperature increases from 15 degree to 17 degrees? How much difference it will be for us? Say 15 is cooler, it is pleasant. 17 will also be pleasant. How much difference will that be for us if the average temperature increases from 15 to 17? Guys, this is a big difference. Let me just give you one example. I'm very sure many of you who are taking the class, they may be having an air conditioner. Yes, exactly. It will be a huge difference. I'll talk about it. Many of you who are taking class right now, you may be having an air conditioner around you, right? right? If you are taking class from North India, then air conditioner becomes a necessity here. It gets so hot in the summers. Tell me guys, at what temperature do we normally keep our AC? At what temperature do you guys normally keep your air conditioner? Tell me guys quickly. At what temperature do we normally keep our air conditioners, guys? Tell me quickly. At what temperature do we normally have to keep our air conditioners? Sagar, you are saying 27. All right. Anybody else? At what temperature do we need to keep our air conditioners in general? Tell me. One is saying 27. See, normally people keep ACs at a temperature of 22, 24 degrees Celsius, right? Now, if you are keeping your AC at 24 degrees Celsius, next time onwards, do one thing guys, just increase the temperature by 2 degrees. So Sagar, if you're keeping it at 27, you keep it at 29 degrees now. Those of you keeping it at 25, you keep it at 27 degrees. But make sure that you do not change your lifestyle. You wear the same kind of clothes. If you're putting a blanket while sleeping, put the same blanket. Do not change your lifestyle, but just increase the temperature by 2 degrees. Mind my words guys, it will be impossible for you to stay in that room for more than 2-3 hours. It will become impossible if you increase the temperature by 2 degrees and if you do not change your lifestyle. This 2-degree change is so extreme that your body's response to temperature will change completely. You will undergo severe dehydration. You can undergo severe heat stroke with this 2-degree change. And guys, imagine the planet Earth belongs to 8.74 million species and only one species has got an air conditioner. Only one species has got an air conditioner. So we have got an air conditioner which can help you in managing the right temperature of your surroundings. But what about the other 8.74 million species? They don't have an air conditioner. If the same temperature difference happens outside, just imagine how badly it will affect your overall health. So here, let me drop the first concept. The concept is of wet and dry bulb and wet bulb temperature. I want to talk about this concept called dry bulb temperature and wet bulb temperature. Let me explain this quickly. So let me see if I have a thermometer here. I usually have a thermometer. Yeah. So I have got this thermometer here. So this is a normal thermometer. It's not working, just for experiment I have kept it. So all of you have seen a thermometer, right? So let's suppose this is a normal thermometer, although it's a body thermometer, but you can consider it to be a thermometer for calculating the atmospheric temperature as well. So let's suppose this is a thermometer. Now let's suppose if I turn this thermometer on, and I keep it in the open, this thermometer will record the temperature of the nearby air, right? Nearby air. And whatever temperature reading you will get here, that will be called the dry bulb temperature. It will be called the dry bulb temperature because it is the temperature of the entire air around you. Got it? This is the dry bulb temperature. So dry bulb temperature is nothing but the normal temperature, right? Dry bulb temperature is basically the normal temperature. It is the normal temperature of air. Normal temperature around us is dry bulb temperature. Got it? This is dry bulb temperature. Understood? Now guys, what is a wet bulb temperature? What is a wet bulb temperature? So let's suppose I've got the normal thermometer, but this time I've taken a cotton wick. I take cotton, and then what I do, I dip this cotton in water, right? I dip this cotton in water, right? Now this cotton is completely soaked in water, and what I do, I wrap this cotton around the thermometer bulb, around the thermometer sensor. Now what will happen? The temperature that you will see, the temperature that you are going to see in the thermometer will not show you the temperature of the surrounding. It will be showing you the temperature of this wet bulb. And how this wet bulb temperature will get affected. Guys, just think about it. Just think about it. Imagine if you are sweating a lot, or suppose you have just taken bath and you go out and stand under the sun, or you go out and stand under the fan. What happens? The water, the sweat on your skin or the water on your skin, it will start getting vaporized. And as it vaporizes, it absorbs the heat of your body and vaporizes. as the heat of the body gets absorbed and vaporized the water, your body starts feeling cooler. Your body starts feeling cooler because your body heat has been absorbed by the clothes or has been absorbed by the nearby air, and it has vaporized the water, vaporized the sweat. Are you guys able to follow? So when we take bath and go out, we feel cooler as the air touches our skin, because all this water will absorb the body heat and will eventually vaporize, leaving the body cooler. Are you guys able to follow? Leaving the body cooler. This is what exactly is going to happen when you are having wet clothes on or your skin is wet, right? It will make your body cooler. In the same way, if I take this particular cotton wick and put this wet cotton around the thermometer, what will happen? This wet cotton will start getting vaporized. How it will get vaporized? It will take the heat from the surrounding air, and as it gets vaporized, the vaporization of this water will leave the entire cotton cooler, and the temperature in this thermometer will start dropping. The temperature in the thermometer will start dropping, and that temperature is basically the coolest temperature possible for this particular cotton wick in order to become dry, right? So as it vaporizes the water and loses all the water, the cotton wick will keep getting drier and drier, and the temperature keeps falling. Are you guys able to understand? Tell me yes in the chat quickly. So what is clear in our mind? That dry bulb temperature is generally going to be higher and wet bulb temperature is generally going to be lower. You guys can see the mercury level is higher in the dry bulb and mercury level is lower in the wet bulb. Tell me yes in the chat if you guys are able to follow. That wet bulb temperature is going to be lower and dry bulb temperature is going to be higher. This is what all of you will agree, right? Sagar, you understand? What about Chirag, Nisha? What do you guys think? The wet bulb temperature is going to be lower and dry bulb temperature is going to be higher. All of you agree? Chirag, you agree to this? Nisha, what do you think? Do you agree that wet bulb is going to be lower and dry bulb is going to be higher? Dry bulb is the normal temperature, but wet bulb includes the temperature of a cotton wick, a wet cotton wick. When the wet cotton wick will start losing all its water, the water will get vaporized and it will leave a cooling impression. It will leave a cooling effect on the thermometer, right? The wet bulb temperature is going to be cooler. Now guys, let's change the situation, and let's change the situation to contemporary time, to the current situation. You know that this is the monsoon season going on, and in this monsoon season humidity levels are high, right? The water around you is humid. See, latent heat do have a role because the state of water is changing, but the latent heat is something which is not recorded in temperature. I hope you understand, right? Latent heat is something basically which is absorbed or rejected by the body in changing its state, but the thermometer does not record the latent heat. I hope you understand this. Like the temperature for the freezing point and melting point is same 0 degrees. The thermometer will not record the change, right? The change mostly happens in the arrangement of the molecules, and that's where the heat goes. Chirag, are you able to follow? Right? So latent heat is definitely having a role here, but it is not being recorded in the thermometer. So whether it is wet bulb or dry bulb, latent heat has nothing to play, no role to play here. Chirag, are you able to understand? Right? You can just write on Y alphabet, that means yes. And if you do not understand, just write on N. Okay? So it will, like, there is no need to write down yes sir completely, because it will save some time. Just, press Y and enter, right? So that's it. Okay? Don't write WHY, right? Y, just Y. Yeah, perfect. That is the right way. So wet bulb and dry bulb. So wet bulb is going to be cooler. But guys, just think about it. Just think about it. And I want all of you to very quickly respond. Okay, all three of you have to respond very quickly. Current situation in Delhi. I'm taking the class from Delhi, but I'm very sure this is a situation in many parts of the country. Across North India, this is likely to be a situation. The weather today is highly humid. It is very humid, right? And it is also hot. So it is hot and humid. Now imagine if the air around us is already humid and hot, and at this time I take the wet bulb temperature. The dry bulb will show me the current temperature of the air, right? It will be, let's suppose 35 degrees Celsius or 38, 40 degrees Celsius. And the moment I take the wet bulb temperature in this humid air, don't you think because of this humid air, the water of this cotton wick will not vaporize that easily? Don't you think so? It will not vaporize. And because the water will not vaporize, it will not leave any cooling effect also. And because the cooling effect also is not going to happen, the wet bulb temperature will remain closer to the dry bulb temperature. Tell me yes. The wet bulb temperature will remain closer to the dry bulb temperature. I hope all of you would agree, right? The wet bulb temperature, if it is very high in humidity, very high in temperature, the wet bulb, it will struggle to vaporize all the water, and the wet bulb temperature and the dry bulb temperature may remain somewhat equal. The wet bulb and dry bulb temperature may remain equal. And guys, now just think about how it will affect your own body. If I am sweating in this weather and I am waiting that this sweating should stop, because sweating is a sign that my body is getting heated up. Sweating happens when the body is getting heated up. This is how the body tries to control its temperature. Perspiration. So if I'm sweating, that means my body is already hot. And if I'm waiting for some air to carry all this water vapor, leave a cooling effect. But if the air around me is already hot and humid, so even if I go and stand under the fan is throwing the air towards me, but the air is already hot and humid, no vaporization of this fluid will happen. No vaporization of the sweat will happen, and my body temperature will still remain hot. And guys, what will happen? Because of this hot body temperature, my body will still release some more fluid. It will still release more sweat. I will keep on sweating, but none of this sweat will get vaporized. And what will happen slowly, guys? I will start facing problems of dehydration, because I have lost already so much of sweat that my body water content has got reduced. Remember, 70% of your body is water. So if it gets reduced by 2%, it's a very big deduction, right? I will start feeling dehydrated. And on top of that, it's not just dehydration. My body temperature is still high. That means all my organs, they are put to overwork. Because my overall body temperature is higher, my body will struggle to maintain the right temperature, and if this goes on for hours, it may lead to even organ failures. Some organs may also start failing if the temperature doesn't come back to the right temperature range. Are you guys able to understand? So this is basically the impact of high wet bulb temperature. Tell me yes in the chat. If the wet bulb temperature gets closer to dry bulb temperature, guys, just think about it. If the wet bulb temperature gets closer to white bulb temperature, then don't you think this wet bulb and dry bulb, if it gets closer, the impact on the human body or impact on any living organism would be so high that all the organs will get heated up, and in order to cool down the organs, they will have to release more sweat, and none of this sweat will get vaporized. Eventually the person will fall out of fatigue. Are you able to get it? So this is the impact of high wet bulb temperature. So guys, when you talk about global warming, global warming is obviously increase in average temperature, right? Increase in average temperature. But guys, which temperature is more severe? The wet bulb temperature. Increase in wet bulb temperature is more significant here. Guys, according to almost every international publication, a wet bulb temperature of 35 degrees Celsius or more, is considered to be highly dangerous. For not just humans, but for majority of animals around us. And I'll just give you one example to understand this. Just let's look at the impact of high wet bulb temperature. If I talk about the human body, first is dehydration, right? Extreme level of dehydration, right? Extreme level of heat stroke, right? And this can lead to organ failure as well. And guys, it is not just organ failure. When you are losing more sweat and there is hot and humid air, there is also going to be a chance of increase in vector borne diseases, right? Because most of the vector borne diseases, because most of the infectious vectors, mosquitoes, they like to breed faster in hot and humid conditions. All of you guys are aware, this is the dengue season going on, right? Hot and humid weather. When you talk about livestock, there is a concept called temperature humidity index. Temperature humidity index, there is an actual term, guys, temperature humidity index, which is basically the impact of temperature and humidity on livestock, on the productivity of milk. Guys, it is said that the best temperature for livestock is 27 degrees Celsius. Wet bulb temperature, I am saying the best temperature is 27 degrees Celsius, and if the not wet bulb temperature, this is average temperature, 27 degrees Celsius. If the temperature increases by 27 degrees Celsius, with every 1 degree Celsius increase, with every increase of 1 degree Celsius, production of milk decreases by 5%. According to the temperature humidity index, with every increase of 1 degree Celsius from 27 degrees Celsius, production of milk decreases by 5%. So imagine if the overall temperature starts increasing, how bad it will affect the livestock. And guys, I hope you understand, temperature humidity only talks about productivity. It talks about productivity of livestock, right? Temperature humidity talks about productivity of livestock. Okay, temperature humidity index. But don't you think apart from this, rise in infections will also happen? Like infections in humans will increase, infections in livestock will also increase. Don't you guys think so? Tell me yes in the chat quickly. Infection in livestock will also increase at the same time. So it is not just an increase in the decrease in the milk production, but also increase in infections among livestock. So guys, if the infection starts increasing in livestock, don't you think the cost of keeping livestock will also increase? The cost of maintaining cows and buffaloes in a cow shed will also increase. The cost of rearing cows and buffaloes will also increase. The cost of milk will increase because production is decreasing and the cost of maintenance is increasing. Are you guys able to understand? This is the impact on livestock. And guys, just think about it. Guys, on top of that, agriculture. Acha, when I talk about agriculture, for some plants, high wet bulb temperature is considered better, because high wet bulb temperature can reduce transpiratory loss of water. Now, transpiratory loss of water, if you are not from science background, you may not understand, so don't worry about it. You just write down, for some plants, high wet bulb temperature is better in water management. So it is considered to be better for water management if there is high wet bulb temperature. So guys, you can just write down the impact on agriculture is, for some plants it's better, right, in terms of water management. So plants will be able to manage water much better if the wet bulb temperature is high. Okay, but it will be for some plants. Fortunately, those plants are normally found in India. Tropical plants, they would be benefited. Okay, so for plants it would be somewhat better, right? But it's not like every plant will be benefited, right? Some plants which normally grow in dry conditions, they may struggle again, right? They may struggle, but largely the plants are going to be benefited. So if I ask you, what is going to be the economic impact of high wet bulb temperature? The economic impact is higher health expenditure. Don't you think health expenditure will be higher, the economic impact? Because when we are prone to more diseases, a health expenditure will be higher. Then guys, because our sweat is not getting vaporized, it will increase higher dependency on air conditioning, and higher dependency on air conditioning means increase in air conditioning sales, increase in electricity consumption. And guys, the electricity that we produce is mostly produced from coal, and that will further increase the temperature, right? So we are going to be trapped in a vicious circle, right? And then guys, increase in food inflation, because milk is going to get expensive. Increase in food inflation. All these are going to be the economic impacts of high wet bulb temperature. Tell me yes in the chat if you guys are able to follow quickly. High wet bulb temperature. These are going to be the economic impacts of high wet bulb. I hope all of you guys are able to understand. Guys, this was one of the questions in this year's prelims also. But thankfully our students were able to do this, because we covered this in the Magnum current affairs series also, and even in the regular class as well. Right? So this is what we have under impacts of high wet bulb temperature. Now guys, next topic is, so you have understood what is the problem of climate change. Climate change is basically, current climate change is constituted due to global warming, and this global warming simply refers to increase in average global temperature. When we talk about increase in average global temperature, we have two types of temperature, dry bulb and wet bulb. It is the wet bulb temperature that is a bigger concern than dry bulb temperature. A wet bulb temperature of more than 35 degrees Celsius is considered to be highly dangerous for almost all animals on earth. I hope all of you understand this. Now guys, comes to a topic that what is causing global warming. So the next question that you should ask is, what is causing global warming, right? What is causing the current global warming? So guys, the current global warming is happening due to something called as greenhouse effect. There is a concept called greenhouse effect, and this is the current major cause of global warming, greenhouse effect. What is greenhouse effect? What is exactly the meaning of greenhouse effect? So greenhouse effect is basically, before I make you understand the word greenhouse effect, let me first see what is the meaning of the word greenhouse. Let us first look at the meaning of the word greenhouse, guys. What is a greenhouse? So guys, if you ever go visit a very cold country, like if you go to visit Greenland, or if you go to the northern part of Russia, if you go to northern part of Canada, these are those places which are completely covered with snow throughout the year. Of course, there are very few people living in these countries, but still those people who live there, they can perform some basic agriculture. They do perform some basic agriculture, and the method that they use to perform basic agriculture is that they construct greenhouses, guys. They construct these glass houses. They make houses of glass, and they call these glass houses as greenhouses. They call these glass houses as greenhouses, right? They call them greenhouses. And how do these greenhouses work? How do they function? So guys, we all know that glass is transparent. Glass is transparent. Glass allows the light to pass through. So if I write down sunlight, you will notice that the sunlight is not a single type of radiation, guys. This is likely to be studied more in depth in science, but when you talk about sunlight is actually a combination of 7 types of colors or 7 types of radiations. Sunlight includes radio waves, microwaves, infrared radiations, visible light, ultraviolet, X-rays and gamma rays. These are the 7 types of radiations that our sunlight produces. I'll repeat: radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays. These are the 7 types of radiations. Even if you don't write them completely here, don't worry. Tomorrow we are anyway starting science as well in the morning. So you can also cover this part in science. It will be covered in science as well. Just the spectrum, the solar spectrum would be also covered in science, not greenhouse effect. So sunlight contains 7 colors, 7 types of radiation: radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet, X-rays and gamma rays. These are the 7 types of radiation that the sun produces. Okay. Now out of these 7 radiations, 90% of the sun's radiation is just these 3. 90% of the sun's radiation is just infrared, visible light and UV light. Infrared, visible light and ultraviolet constitutes 90% of the sun's radiation. So 90% of the sun's radiation includes infrared, visible light and UV light. Infrared, visible light and UV light, this constitutes 90% of the sun's radiation. Got it? 90%. Now what happens? The visible light, this is responsible for our visibility. We are able to see things through visible light, right? And guys, infrared light, this is responsible for the heat of the sun. Heat of the sun. What does it mean? Guys, I lift my hand, and if I try to touch the bulb that is right above my head, if I try to touch this bulb that is right above my head, this bulb, I can feel the light, I can see the light hitting on my hand, but I don't feel any heat from this bulb. Even if I lift my hand and right now I'm literally touching it, I don't feel any heat in my hand. I only see that light is touching my hand. That means this LED bulb is not emitting infrared, because infrared is the light that is carrying heat signatures. The LED bulb does not emit infrared. But if I put my hand in the open sunlight, of course I will be able to see my hand because it contains visible light, but along with visible light, it also heats up my hand. My hand will also get heated up, and that heating of the hand is a sign that this light is not just visible, but it is also hot, right? It is also carrying heat. So that heat of this particular light of the sun is carried through infrared. Infrared light is carrying the heat of the sun. This LED bulb is not emitting the infrared light. That's why I don't feel any heat touching my hand. I don't feel any heat in my hand. I can only see my hand getting brightened because of sunlight, but I do not feel any heat being emitted because the LED light does not emit infrared. It only emits visible light. Are you guys able to understand? But sunlight contains a lot of infrared as well. Sunlight contains a lot of infrared. That's why when I put my hand in the sunlight, I feel my hand getting hot, not because of visible light, but because of the infrared light. And sunlight, 90% is infrared, visible light and UV light. Thankfully, UV light is stopped because of ozone layer. You might be aware of it, but infrared and visible light are easily able to reach the Earth's surface. Now what happens? Glass being transparent, what happens? This light, infrared and visible light, they both enter into the glass. Infrared and visible light, they both enter into the glass. And glass being transparent, both the lights are able to enter easily. Both of these lights are able to enter easily. So they go like this. Both of them are able to enter easily. But then guys, what happens? They strike the surface and they get reflected back. So what happens? This light gets reflected back. This also gets reflected back. Now what happens? Glass being transparent, it will allow the visible light to escape. Visible light escapes. Visible light escapes, okay, easily, right? It gets reflected and gets escape out of the glass. But guys, glass have got a property that when infrared light enters, the infrared light gets reflected and this infrared light gets trapped. This infrared light gets trapped. Now, why does it get trapped here? Why not the incoming infrared light gets trapped? Only this light gets trapped. So guys, I want you to pay 100% attention for the last 5 minutes and then we'll call it off. Suppose I'm playing with a tennis ball. Let's suppose I've got a tennis ball in my hand and I'm playing with this tennis ball. Let's suppose there is a wall in front of me, there is a surface. I throw a tennis ball onto this surface. The moment I throw this ball onto the surface, what will happen? The ball will hit the surface and bounce back. But have you ever noticed, I may throw the ball like this, but the ball will come short and I have to catch the ball like this. I'm throwing it like this, but I'm catching the ball like this. Basically what is happening, some of the kinetic energy, some of the energy of my ball is actually getting absorbed by this surface. And the ball that gets bounced back, it will have lower energy than the ball that has hit the surface. So the ball that hits the surface will absorb some of this energy, and the ball that bounces back will have lower energy. Are you guys able to follow? Please tell me yes in the chat quickly. Are you able to follow that the ball that is being hit on the surface, it will have higher energy than the ball that will bounce back, it will have lower energy? Tell me yes in the chat quickly. Alright, so the ball that gets bounced back, it will have slightly lower energy. And because this ball will have slightly lower energy, then what will happen? Tell me guys, what will happen? The same thing is happening with infrared. The infrared light that is moving into the glass, this is of higher energy. The infrared light that is moving into the glass, this is of higher energy levels. The moment this infrared strike the surface, there is a loss of energy here. Some absorption of energy happens to the surface, and then the infrared light that gets reflected, its energy level is lower. So you know what happens? Glass has got a property of absorbing low energy infrared light. Glass have a natural property of absorbing lower energy infrared light. That means the glass will allow the infrared light to enter because it is of high energy. The glass will allow the infrared light to enter into the glass because it is having higher energy. But the glass will not allow the lower energy infrared light to escape, because glass have got a natural property of absorbing the low energy infrared light. Now guys, I'm using the word high energy, lower energy because we have not studied science yet. In science, I'll use the word shorter wavelength, longer wavelength, because in book you will come across to the word shorter wavelength, longer wavelength. Those of you who are from science background, they may know that longer wavelength means lower energy, shorter wavelength means higher energy. But because I'm teaching ecology right now, not science, I'm restraining from using the word wavelength or frequency here. I'm using the simple example of ball hitting the surface and bouncing back. The bouncing back will be of lower energy than the ball that is going to hit the surface. I hope all of you understand. So glass have got a natural property of absorbing or stopping the low energy infrared light. And guys, because of all this infrared light that gets trapped in the glass house, because of the trapping of this infrared light in the glass house, what will happen? The entire glass house, its temperature starts to increase. And guys, sometimes this temperature reaches to such an extent that you can actually perform basic agriculture as well inside the glass house. You can easily perform basic agriculture. It will maintain right temperature required for many plants to grow, especially buckwheat. Buckwheat, right? It can easily grow. It's a kind of a grain which can eventually be used for making, flour and such. I hope you guys are able to understand. So this is basically what we have under glass houses. And guys, even in India, we have got these greenhouses, but in India, we don't call them greenhouse. We call them polyhouse, because in India, we make polyhouses. In India, these glass houses or greenhouses, they are famous in the form of polyhouse. Why polyhouse, guys? Because there are two things. First of all, in India, the average temperature is not that extreme. It doesn't get so cold that you can't do any agriculture. You can still perform agriculture even in the cooler weather. Even in the cold season, you can perform agriculture. But if you want to grow vegetables, and that too in extreme cold, a polyhouse is good enough. First of all, polyhouse, they are cheaper because you just put a polythene layer. Rather than keeping a glass layer, they are cheaper. Secondly, they are temporary. If you want to remove them, you have to remove the polythene easily. It can easily be removed. Glass houses becomes a permanent structure. They are almost impossible to remove, right? It will be very expensive for the farmer to remove them. Even though poly houses also becomes a long-term investment. Nowadays, when farmer construct a poly house, they have a plan for at least 10 years, right? But it is comparatively cheaper. In India also, we have these greenhouses in the form of poly houses that traps some infrared light, that traps some amount of infrared light. Are you guys able to understand? Tell me guys if you have understood greenhouse. And guys, just like we have the glass, just like with the property of glass which traps the infrared light, just like the glass traps infrared light, there are some gases which also behaves like a glass in trapping infrared light, and those gases we'll discuss tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to start from there. I'll give a quick recap of this discussion, and tomorrow when we meet we'll again be talking about things, right? Please tell me yes in the chat one last time if you guys have understood, and then we'll call it off for today, right? Sagar, you understood? Nisha, you understood? Chirag? Alright. Right now only 3 students were there who were there throughout the class. I think Jyoti left in between, and Bharat, it seems he has joined recently. So don't worry guys. Please make sure that you are following the recorded lectures. It is always better that you remain regular with the class. Even though this course is self-paced, the accessibility to the videos will be there with you till 1st of January 2027. But guys, this is my personal request that if you remain actively involved in the class, I would also be able to, discuss the topics more in depth, right? So the more actively involved you are, the more enjoyable the class would be for me as well, right? So I want you guys to ask as many questions as you can. There is no wrong answers here. There are no wrong questions here. You can ask as many questions as you can. Okay, so this concludes our first class for today. I'll be sharing the recorded lecture with the administration team right after this, and they'll be uploading it for the other students. All right, all the best guys. We'll meet tomorrow. Thank you guys. All the best. Note making, don't worry. See Chirag, this is just the beginning. If there is a topic which requires some special consideration, I will give you the time for making notes. I will even dictate, right? So don't worry about it. Whatever you understood, you write it down. By the way, this PPT will also be shared with you in the same annotations. Those annotations will be there in the PPT. That will also be shared. I'm going to share it right after every class. Whenever I finish any topic, I will share the PPT. Now, for you guys, I'll share the PPT right now itself, and you can make notes according to that also. But I would highly recommend if you can make notes during the class itself. I think right now you wouldn't have found much concept to write because most of the things were discussion based. We did not start with the topic. We only started the topic in the last half an hour of the class. But tomorrow onwards, be a little proactive. I will also, you can stop me then and there whenever you want me to write, or if you want me to dictate, you can just write, sir, please dictate, right? You can just write dictate, please dictate like this. I will be dictating all the things. Okay. So this is of course going to be continued in tomorrow's class. So it will not be an issue as such, right? I hope Chirag, I've been able to answer this question for you. All right. Yeah. See, first point, when to write, when not to write. Mind my words, this is up to your own discretion. Whatever you want to write, you can write whenever you feel like. Okay. You can write whenever you feel like, you can write. But yes, this was just the starting, so I don't think there's a need to write as of now. But tomorrow when we meet, the class will be somewhat slow and you will have time to write. Don't worry. Okay. So whatever you find new, you can write those things whenever you feel like. Okay. And if there is something which I want to dictate specially, then I will dictate those things. Like in tomorrow's class onwards, I'll start the dictations. This was just to explain one small concept to you, which is very likely that UPSC will not ask. It is just to understand the concept of climate change, and that was the preliminary concept. The topic of climate change has more dimensions to cover, which we are going to cover tomorrow onwards, and there you will have time to write. Okay, don't worry. I hope all of you guys have been able to get it. So this is everything on today's class, guys. We'll be meeting tomorrow, and tomorrow we'll start exactly at 2 o'clock. Today I got late because I had to recopy the PPTs. I opened the PPTs, but it was unfortunately this previous class PPTs. So it took me around 3-4 minutes to copy them. But tomorrow we'll exactly start at 2 p.m. Okay. All right. All the best, guys. Thank you.